Welcome to In Conversations With, a podcast by the Australian Academy of Property. I'm Wendy Thomson, and in this series I sit down with experienced professionals from across the commercial property sector and the broader business community for honest conversations about people, experiences, and decisions that shape our industry. We explore the realities of commercial property, the changing business environment, and the stories that sit behind the roles people hold today. If you're interested in commercial property, business, and the conversations that help us think differently, you're in the right place. Today, I'm joined by someone whose perspective on commercial property comes from working across many sides of the industry. Rauhena has built an extensive career in commercial property, working closely with landlords, tenants, and property professionals, and developed a deep understanding of the relationships that sit behind successful property management. Her experience spans leasing, asset management, and advisory roles, giving her a practical appreciation of what really happens once the lease is signed. What I particularly enjoy about talking with people like Rauhena is that they understand commercial property is ultimately a people business. While leases, rent reviews, and outgoings are all important, so much of the success or failure of a property comes down to communication, trust, and managing expectations. In this conversation, we're exploring Rauhena's journey into the industry, the lessons she's learned along the way, and her thoughts on where commercial property is heading. We also talk about the often misunderstood relationship between landlords, tenants, and property managers, why education matters, and what the industry can do to build stronger capability for the future. Rauhena, thank you for joining me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Hello, Wendy. How are you?
Privileged to have you on our podcast today. You bring another perspective to the industry and other experience, and really interested in your experience in the commercial property sector and your perspective on how the industry operates today. We'll cover your pathway into the industry, lessons learned over the course of your career, the relationships between landlords, tenants, and property professionals, communication and expectations within the industry, capability, training, and the future of commercial property practice. So the intention is really just to have a thoughtful discussion grounded in real industry experience. So everyone seems to have a different entry point into commercial property. What was your pathway into the industry?
Yeah, well, thank you, because mine was interesting. I didn't have anything really to do with property, didn't have an idea about commercial property. I landed a receptionist role at a retail shopping centre company that we managed about 19 shopping centres in Queensland. I started as a receptionist. And then it sort of took off from there. I was with them for about 3 years. So I sort of went into other departments. I was in the leasing area. I was in the shopping centre. I actually was in a centre as a centre secretary as well. So there was different places that I could see how the retail area worked. And that was the start. And then after that, I went in to be an asset manager for an agency. And I was with them for 15 years. And that really gave me a big insight into the broader picture. So it started just with retail shopping centres. Then I moved into the industrial office, small strip shops, all the strata titles that would happen within those small little convenience centres. There were so many things that I learnt more about as I was growing in the industry. So then I found out more about landlords and the tenants and contractors and so many things from there. So those 15 years, I grew even more. And then I've just started off my own business where I help owners who manage their own commercial properties. And that's another little niche or another arm of commercial property that people aren't really looking too deeply into. So I am just been loving the experience.
That's one thing, particularly with commercial. You can move through so many different areas. Like you've come from shopping centres across to general agency doing lots of different types of commercial. And once you get the appetite for it and you look at all the different opportunities there are, and then moving into what you are doing today, which is consulting to private owners, that's is a different area to look at, which really does interest me. I do something a little bit similar, but it's just we can simplify things for owners as well. Looking back on your early years, what lessons shaped the way you approach the industry today?
I think seeing how the agencies work, how other agencies work, as well as seeing how our agency worked, and it sort of gave me an idea of what were the right ways of doing things and the wrong ways of doing things, or things that weren't as productive. So I guess it's checking the processes. And so therefore today I'm more aware of how those processes can be more in alignment with getting the results that the owners are wanting, and making sure that the tenants are understanding it as well. So it's really understanding the processes, but seeing how it all was working or not working over those years, seeing the mistakes that were made by myself or in the agency or my colleagues or whoever that was, but the industry as a whole, there was little things that weren't quite matching up. So being able to have that experience and have the overview of that has really helped me to where I am today.
Has there been a particular role or moment that's changed how you saw the commercial property sector as a whole, like looking at the whole sector, and whether that's positive or negative? Preferably positive.
I think the role as the property manager was really the clinch there, because you could see how you could bring all the components together, all the stakeholders together. And that is actually the positive that comes out of getting everyone going down the same path, getting the results that are wanted. I guess being a property manager, you're in the middle and you're really trying to help all the stakeholders. I mean, we're talking tenants and we're talking landlords, but there's also the contractors involved as well. And they play a big part in that, bringing everything together, because your contractors are the people who are on the ground and they see what you can't see. I mean, I'm not a professional plumber, so I didn't know that drain should have been pitched this way or whatever it is. You need the insight of all those professionals as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Being a property manager, overseeing that, is just, you understand what I'm saying there with it.
Absolutely. And it's all about relationships. I mean, having contractors that can really see what's going on in the property and provide that advice, having really good, solid contractors to work with, it makes such a difference. I've always found that.
And they know the property better than you do, really.
Yes.
And that's what I like, especially if they've been on it for a long time. So in the agency, we'd have our set, contractors, and I really relied on them, because they remembered 10 years ago when they did whatever they did to the building. And they're going, oh, hold on, now it's like, you know what I mean? It's always basic. You've got your pest guys who know what's been happening in this section of that building and why it's now got to this point. And you can also resolve a lot of things, like it could be really now the tenant's problem, because it should be fine because the contractor knew that they did it right, and or the owner knew that they'd got the work done properly. So there's lots of little backstories that you can take that help towards, making sure the whole property is really working how it should work, functioning how it should function.
And it's really interesting because some of them retire, unfortunately.
I know.
And then we need to have others coming up and having the same thinking when they approach, like being able to deal with tenants and talk to us for landlords, to be able to articulate in a way that everyone understands.
Yeah.
And the compliance, I think, for them has been a big shift as well. There's been a lot more compliance, and so some of our favourites are probably having a bit of a challenge with that. So.
I know. And again, that's a good element of when things do move on, because they're bringing in fresh eyes to go, well, we don't do it like that anymore. And you go, okay, right, how do we do it?
And there's been a change in this building regulation.
Yes.
Or something like that. So when you compare the industry to when you first started to today, what are some of the biggest shifts that you've observed?
Oh, I just think it's the CPD. I mean, when I was in the REIQ CNI chapter, we were always pushing and supporting the REIQ in that, to say that you need to have everyone trained. People need to be trained, up with the latest training, up with the latest legislation, everything, because that's what needed to happen. I mean, I remember early on in the days when I was learning all about different countries who, did commercial property, and I love to travel, so therefore I would have talking to a lot of different people in those countries about commercial property. And I found that so many of them had to start with degrees or that type of thing. And yet here you just can walk in the door and know somebody and you're in. It's like, so that the CPD is really important. And to see that now, it's like, yes, now we're going to get a little more professionalism happening across the board. And that's going to like weed out a lot of people. I don't mean to say weed, but it's going to be like, okay, are you in with the right stuff or are you just going to not be there? Because everything is going down this path. Everyone needs to have the CPD all the time. And it's not like go in and you're done.
No.
So I'm really grateful for that because it helps me as well. I mean, for everybody, it doesn't matter what level you're at.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really pleased to see it. Like New South Wales have just increased the time, which is quite a challenge. You need to do some face-to-face. They've upped the requirements, which I'm really pleased to see. And I'm so glad Queensland has brought in that requirement now. And it's not just tick and flick. I think it's all about the actual quality and having it tailored to commercial, the training tailored to commercial property people is so beneficial.
Can I say again too, when I would go to a lot of events and it's not tailored to commercial.
No.
And I put my hand up going, is this for commercial? I'm learning. Is this commercial? And they go, well, you're probably going, in other words, no, it's not. No. And that's disappointing, because commercial is such a strength. And, when you're out at the barbecues and they all say real estate agents, well, you're kind of clobbed into this little, everyone turns around or changes the subject or something awkward.
You feel like ducking.
You kind of like, do I tell them or don't I tell them? Or else they do the glaze over thing and you're going, okay, yeah, it's not going to work. But you want things to be more professional. And so you want to be able to, with pride, stand up and go, well, actually, I'm a real estate agent. They go, yay.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't know what commercial is, commercial property.
No, they don't. You're constantly explaining it. They say commercial, and you go, well, if you live in it, then it's not commercial, it's residential.
That's a really good way to describe it because it's quite difficult and they don't understand. Then they start asking advice about their house.
I know.
And say, or to buy, or to help them buy something. I say, I do the same as you. I look online. So that's all I can tell you. I don't know what's going on in the area. I just want to look at understanding the commercial property ecosystem. So commercial property obviously involves landlords, tenants, agents, property managers and advisors. So where do you see the biggest disconnects between those groups?
Oh, I think there's like a few things. For one thing, it's having the relationship between the groups. That's a really good connect. That's an understanding that everyone's on the same place, that you're not trying to compete with each other, you're just trying to make it all work. And I think processes are really important because the processes, if everyone knows what the process is going to be to get the end result and everyone's on that page with it, then it's not such a misconnection because we all know where we're trying to go and how we're going to get there, not misunderstandings, And I guess also I'm thinking legislation about making sure that everyone is aware of the legislation. So it comes down to everybody being trained from the tenant, which I don't think there are many people out there helping to train tenants, which I think that needs to be, especially commercial tenants. Yeah. I mean, you think of the mums and the dads who come, I want to open a little, takeaway or something easy, which they aren't anyway, and they're thinking, oh, look, I'll just go in there, and we'll be fine. And they realise that it's not that easy. And also I found a lot when I had, especially the small strip shops, little 60 square metres, and people would come from overseas. And definitely, because I did a lot of leasing as well. So definitely they ran their business back wherever they lived, but they don't know what the local requirements are. And they therefore think that they can carry on the business the way they carried on the business. And then when they're in there and they realise they can't, then they don't know what to do, which isn't a good result because usually they do a fly-by-night and they're gone. They don't pay the rent. It's all of those. Trying to resolve those disconnects by having great conversations, listening from a commercial property management side, listening to hear what everyone is really saying, not what they're telling you, but what they're really saying.
Absolutely, yeah. As I used to tell my team, what they're asking you and what they're telling you is not really what they want to tell you or ask you. It's actually something else. And they'll go, how do you know? And I think from experience, you know, you understand, we both understand that it's about communication and relationships so much, isn't it?
Yeah. You have to read between the lines, and you have to get what the character of the person is. There's so much involved in all of that, especially if you're meeting with them face to face, then you can kind of tell if it's going to work or not going to work. You can kind of get that great communication. And then there are those tenants that I've had for years that at the very beginning, it was constantly talking to them face to face about what it meant on their invoice and what the outgoings meant and how that all related. And that was constant training from me as a property manager. But I would love to have those people already understand that before they commit themselves and then years down the track go, everyone's not my friend because they're not helping me. And you're going, but we're trying to help you understand. So really good relationships is just, I guess, got to be it, yeah.
And I think that education piece really sometimes is with a lot of new landlords coming in that were residential, especially in Victoria, and now acquiring commercial and have, really no idea of how it works. We're not being paid to educate, but we're having to do it across the board, which is really challenging, isn't it?
And I find a lot of the new ones will go into little chat groups or little Facebook groups, and they will start talking amongst themselves. So they're like, oh, yes, I've done this for years and this is how you do it. And you're thinking, no, actually, that's not how you do it. But now you're training those people. So they're like their own little ecosystem doing their own work.
That's scary. I've seen a couple of those Facebook groups and I look at it and go, oh, you know, the other day there was one about the agent has lost the bank guarantee, and I just put in lack of training. I normally will just read and not say, but I had to say that.
I know, you kind of, because you don't know who's listening, who's watching, and usually it's the people who set up the Facebook page anyway who are trying to move it down their alley because they really want the business from the people.
Yes, of course.
It's a little bit set up.
Yeah, unfortunately. When you see someone in the industry operating at a really high level, what behaviours or habits stand out? So I'm sure you've seen a number of people that operate at a high level.
Oh, I have, and it's so inspiring. I mean, I was mentored by, when I was in retail first, back at the retail shopping centre company, and she was absolutely fabulous because she'd had all this experience, and her communication was excellent. She was right there, called people back. It's all the very real basics. And, really took the time to listen to the people, whether it was the owners or the tenants or whoever it was, and had that natural empathy for where they were. So then they felt heard. And I think when people feel heard, then they're like more likely to be relaxed and go, okay, now tell me more, because now obviously I'm going to need more. So it's really being able to listen to the people, but great communication is what gets you over the line, because when you're trying to do the deals, when you're trying to get the tenants to renew, all those situations that come up, being able to communicate quite clearly and quite succinctly in writing after you've had that conversation on the phone, so they don't come back to you and say, but you said. And you go, well, what was the email? This is like... This is what we said, and I wrote it down. And if you thought it was wrong, you should have come back. But this is what so it's really good. So I said I had a fabulous mentor, and she just really got me going with, wow, this is an exciting industry to be in, so long as you do it correctly. And you align yourself with the right people, I feel. You've just got to find your place, I guess, as a commercial property manager.
Oh, absolutely. And, it can be quite astounding. Which role within the commercial property ecosystem tends to be underestimated?
I'm going straight property management because we're like the glue. We are the bread and butter of the agency. We keep the lights on at home. The sales guys and, the leasing, everything just kind of cream on the top, but we hold it together. And we are the ones who are the feed back to the sales guys who now want to sell the property, because we know what the tenant went through and we know how that landlord reacted, and we know so much about those hundreds of properties that we've been managing. So I really feel it's a property management that's really, it's the strength, but sometimes they're looked on as, well, you're those ones over there while we go off and do all the fancy stuff, because it can be really hard. I mean, those inspections, you regularly got to do them. I was doing one property for at least 15 years, as long as I was in the agency. And I'm thinking, I'm going back there again. We've still got the same problems. They're still not looking after,
Yeah.
So it can be a trudge.
There's a lot we could talk about. That could be a whole podcast
Oh, can't it?
on property management. So I just wanted to look at the landlord-tenant property manager relationship and just expand a little bit on that. Obviously, often operates as that three-way relationship between landlord-tenant property manager. So just some tips on what makes that relationship work well. Why do misunderstandings still occur between those parties?
Well, first of all, if I can look at it from a landlord's view, the landlord has expectations and they're going, this is what I'm wanting out of my investment property. And so you as a property manager are trying your best to get that for them. But you've also got to have the reality of it. So there are some instances where some landlords' expectations have been unrealistic. And you're going, well, actually, if you're going to take that path, that's not going to work for the tenants. You're going to lose your tenant. So is that what you really want to do? So the owner has to be a little more trusting in what you're saying to them. And that's, again, the communication. But being confident enough for them to say, well, this is what I'm wanting. What do you think? And for you to come back and say, well, this is from my experience. What has happened if you've done that? And I think they just need to hear that, whether they follow what, your conversation with them or not. It's entirely up to them, of course. But I think then you need to make sure that they understand that A or B. You go down this path, that's what's going to happen. If you choose this one, that's what's going to happen. And then they've got a better vision over where they want to go and what it looks like at the moment. So that's with the landlords, and even the same with the tenants, to understand their thinking and where they've come from. Their expectations is they're going to have everything their own way and do what they want to do. And, they can't go break that wall down, which is what I've had on a phone call from one. He said, it's okay because I've just gone and cut in that wall and it's all right. And I'm going, you what? Then I'm looking through going, did the owner approve this? No, no, he did not approve it. No, I know you didn't approve it. And the tenant's thinking everything's fine and not realising when you've got to fix that up. But the tenant's expectations of what the property can offer them for their business, they've got to get their information correct. And that's where I would advise them to talk to their lawyers and their accountants to get their business running well, because they then think you're going to help them with their business and we're not business. Well, I'm not. And the owners are the same. The owners aren't there to help you run your business. I mean, they might want to do the odd thing, but it's not up to them to go, oh, let me make sure your business is running well, we'll do this for you and we'll do that for you. So there's got to be a line that's drawn on both sides, but the property manager has to be really aware of all the intricacies that are happening in that relationship. You're in the middle, you're not the one making the decisions, but you're helping both sides to see what both sides are trying to accomplish and then bring them to reality of what they really can accomplish.
I think it's interesting since COVID, and I've seen it still happening recently, is that a tenant's business may not be going very well and they come back expecting the landlord to provide rent abatements and reductions without them looking at their own business to see what's going on and what the reason is. It's always someone else's fault. I recently worked with a landlord with one of those, and it was really, I was sort of feeling myself get quite annoyed because I'm thinking, you need to take responsibility and have a look at your own business and really look at what's going on. Because me from the outside and the landlord from the outside, we can actually see what's wrong, but you probably won't like us telling you, and it's not really our role. The other thing is too that I wanted to expand a little bit on was I see a lot of property managers, unfortunately, who treat tenants as second-rate citizens and second-rate people. And I really get quite distressed about that. A tenant is a really important person in a commercial investment.
Yeah, it's so sad because if you don't have the tenants, you don't have anyone, you're not paying your bills. It's quite simple.
Exactly,
so there's no way that you can underrate them or undermine them. Doesn't matter what business they're doing. I mean, they give you attitude, all of that type of thing, that can happen, which is all part of them holding their ground in their business. But they shouldn't be undermined, because if they've been there for a few years and they want to stay on for a few more years, then it's up to you to go, respect that and do the best that you can, because you can see really that they are good tenants. So you don't want to ruin that. I think sometimes some agents have got other plans in mind and they're thinking, well, we'll put the price up really high. I'll manipulate this get the tenant to feel really bad and they're going to leave because I've actually got someone else that I want to put in and I want to make it a bit bigger. And, there's those sorts of scenarios as well. Oh, yeah. They're thinking money. And that is so wrong to do it that way. And their side, the agent could be going, well, look, it's because I'm doing it better for the landlord. It's going to be a better deal for the landlord and they're going to thank me for it. But, then you've got the downtime and the expense that goes with putting in a new tenant anyway. Yeah. So it's my advice to property managers is do the best to hold on to who you've got, because it's that downtime, that vacant time that is the most damaging. And you want the tenants to feel valued because then they will in turn look after the property. And that can be in your big industrials, as well as your small little shops, as well as your 60 square metre office spaces. It can be anywhere. If they feel valued, because you never know where that's going to lead. And they then go and tell their, friend who's got nationals who are next minute coming back to you because they want better property, they want great property managers, and so therefore they're coming back to you as a property manager. So your reputation is at stake as well.
Yes.
So you want to be making sure that you don't undermine them. And, it could be great, that tenancy mix in a neighbourhood centre, so you don't want to lose that. Sometimes I know tenants can be a little bit, annoying, but better the devil you know and the devil you don't. You know them, they know you. You can kind of make this work. It's okay. You'll be fine. Don't undermine them.
And I think too that the other hidden aspects that are not seen very often, I know that we leased a property to a tenant and he was so happy with the way that we managed that he actually gave us 3 or 4 of his investment properties to manage.
Yeah.
So you don't know what's going on. You don't know what business. You don't know what referral. I know we got a lot of referral work from our tenants. I remember going to properties and they said, the property manager has never been here when we took over management. I used to actually go myself to the properties because I always felt if you meet the tenants face to face, just such a different relationship. When they get upset, they're not likely to scream and yell or, and they feel they can talk to you.
Yes.
It's a much better way to go about it. We talked a bit about education for landlords and tenants in understanding how commercial property actually works. And we talk about commercial, we talk about retail as well. In each state, I know Victoria has a small business commissioner, and I think in different states there is bodies that do assist tenants, but sometimes it's still not enough, and we are still, helping to educate. And it doesn't take a lot. So from an education perspective, it's not about sending out newsletters, it's not about like having information nights. Well, that might help, but it really is about relationship, isn't it? It's about how you communicate, how you work, how you explain things to tenants and landlords, because a lot of them don't understand, leases, sometimes outgoings and rent reviews properly. And I really am a great believer in when you do a rent review that the tenant is advised in writing and the landlord is advised in writing, because the tenant, it might not be a totally positive thing, but they can see exactly what's going on. They're not always going to refer to the lease. Those little things psychologically make such a big difference.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think terminology is so important. So think you've got a tenant here who's got this business running and there's terminology in the lease that they haven't got a clue what you're talking about. Well, they don't want to be going to, I don't know what you're talking about. So they'll go, yes, I know what you're talking about, but they really don't. So checking they know the terminology and what that really does mean. Keeping it as simple as possible. I'll tell you what, outgoings is always the crux of the tenants understanding what those outgoings are made of, but explaining that to them, especially if you've got new people who are coming in who've never had outgoings before, because they've been in a commercial property that's being gross. So we just pay one bill, and you're going, well, actually, you're going to be paying 2 because it's net. So you've got the rent and then you've got the outgoings, and, so explaining that to them to say it's okay, this is how it works, making sure they get the overall picture, that no one's trying to rip them off, but just to do it right. And then I think you look at the landlord side where they're going, oh, it's so much easier just to do gross. Just do gross all the time. And you're thinking, oh, no, you are not. It might be easy for
return.
you. The property managers might go, look, I don't want to be doing outgoings budgets or outgoings reconciliation, so let's just do everything gross. And sometimes the agents want to do that too. They just make it, I don't want to work out what the outgoings are. Let's just do it gross, which is really bad. And I always say to my owners, you need to do net and you need to do outgoings, because those 2 separate components are so important. Your rent is going to be quite clear, wow, you're keeping up with the market. and your outgoings, wow, those bills have really gone up. So you need to make sure that they are separate. Function together is just, they're losing on it.
I don't like that practice. The landlord's return on their investment is just diminishing by increases in outgoings. And you can't control those increases. Like insurance can just hike whenever.
Oh, for sure.
Unbelievably. And it can be linked to the tenant's use. How do you ascertain that? Overall, our role as property managers is to maximise the return on the landlord's investment and minimise risk as much as we can. And that's part of minimising the risk. So it's really, interesting. So I just want to move on to communication because there's a few things that I've been finding lately that is really annoying.
Yeah.
But this is one of them. In many industries, it's been harder to actually speak to a person. Do you think that property management particularly has become too system driven?
Oh, yes, definitely. And it's up to the agents or the agent to make sure that they don't just stick on that. And, that's the easy way out. You've got to be able to be there at the end of the phone. You've got to be able to, like you say, when you're going to inspections, be there in person with the person. You've got to be communicating really regularly on your emails. That is so important because then everyone is just lost in no man's land, not knowing what's going on. And that's where you lose the faith that the tenants will have in you and the faith the owners have in you because, you don't want everything just to be systems. I mean, systems are important and that's great to know that you're on with all of that, whether it's in the accounting section or you're doing your rent reviews or whatever you're doing, your outgoings. But you've got to have that personal connection on top of those systems. So systems is your underlying, this is how everything runs nice and smoothly. But you need to have that personal connection and you need to be open to their questions and be able to know what the answers are going to be to make them feel good about what they're looking at in an email, for instance.
I think sometimes too, it's really nice to actually say thank you to people and acknowledge that what they've done is appreciated. I found that in over a number of years that there was a lot of younger couples coming into business and starting their businesses very small, and then they continue to grow and lease or buy through your agency. And no one ever patted them on the back. They worked so hard. They put everything on the line and, it was really tough for them.
I'm so behind that too, appreciation for all the tenants, even for the landlords, some of them who have come along on a learning curve. I think it's great. And I love that person. I had one owner who lived in New Zealand, so I'm from New Zealand. So every time I go home, I'd go and visit him. I'd get the car and I'd drive down to visit with him and then carry on down to see my family. So it was those personal touches that really make a difference. I did that for years and it was great. So finding those personal touches is really important and making all the stakeholders feel valued.
Yeah, especially contractors.
Oh, yes, and contractors, because if you get them on the wrong side, they're just not going to turn up. They're going to go, they're putting you on the bottom of their list.
Yeah, but also too, I think having great relationships with the contractors, you can have the tough conversations with them as well.
I've negotiated a few times with the contractors and they're fine with that. Because, they always have their little buffer anyway. And because you've given them so much work, there's always that element of, look, I do 20 of your properties, so, I'm sure we can help this landlord out for this moment. So, that relationship is important.
I think another thing too is one of the things that I find is organising the jobs, like giving them clear instructions on the work orders is such another important thing that they really appreciate. You always notice they'll tell you they love working with certain agents because they get clear instructions, well organised. Respect is such an important thing.
And their invoices are paid on time and, all of those basic things, which these guys are going to be great to work with. And I like those contractors who are really good when they're on site as well. So they know what to say to tenants. I've had one tell them the life history of the owner. I'm going, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? You said what? So it's kind of knowing professionally. The contractors have to know professionally where to draw the line. You have to get in there and just do the job and then get out again. Don't hang around for coffee or anything because we're not paying you for that anyway.
That's right. That's a really good point. Property managers today often manage really very large portfolios, and often the reason for that is because of our fee level across the board. It's always a bugbear of mine. We get property managers' the management fees are so low and really needs to be looked at in most agencies, in probably majority of agencies. property managers are under so much pressure. I see it all the time where they're managing massive portfolios without having really good systems in place. That possibly is where some of the communication breakdown comes from, that workload.
You have to justify as an agency, first of all, your fees, because you don't want to be charging really high and then the quality of service you're giving isn't there. So first of all, you have to find that line, that balance. So the agent, the property managers need to be able to keep up in line with whatever the fees are, come back to the landlord with what you said you would do, basically, and be that right person for that tenant and keep it all going along smoothly. And then you get the advantage of being able to increase the fees or negotiate different fees when you take on more properties. So that gives you more of a leverage then to go, well, we can negotiate this up a bit because this is what we're going to get overall. But yeah, I think we definitely have to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. And I know that they're overloaded, a lot of property managers, and trying to find that fine balance. And again, that's where it all falls down with communication, because they're in such a hurry to get everything done on the big stuff. That your property just burnt down and you've got all of that happening, or whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
And those take precedence over all those hundreds of other things you're throwing out there to try and fix. You've just got to justify your fees and the work that you're doing and making sure you can stay up with it. I mean, sometimes we take on over properties, the owners have come over to us and then we get all the information from the previous agency. And I'm thinking, wow, they had these many properties. No wonder the agents come to us, because you could tell that they would not have been able to cope. And it would have been definitely just send the letters, don't talk to them, just let's get everything moving. And they're losing that element of connection. And that's a sad way to be. So it's finding that balance of how many properties each property manager can take on board, and also making sure that it works against the bottom line of your agency. And that is a fine line to think about.
I've been in training lately, I've been really talking to people about looking at what their services are in the management authority. And I think because property managers have really been expected to find solutions for everything, even if it's outside their remit, and generally our services in the authority should be lined up with our professional indemnity insurance, so there should be a connection there about what we do offer. But sometimes property managers go way outside what the services are in the authority because they're trying to offer that solution. And they end up filling out insurance claims, they end up going out on sites when there's fires, like doing all of these additional work that's not included. So straight away they're going into a big risk area. It's putting their workload much higher. There's the expectation that they're meant to solve every problem that happens on that property. So I find that's really something we need to look at and pull back and have other people. The owners generally will pay their lawyer, their accountant, their planning person, their building consultant without complaining. They might complain, but they'll still pay. But with us, we're expected to do everything for a fee that really doesn't align with the services that we're often providing.
And as I talk with my mentors about, everyone needs to stay in their lane, because then things can get so crossed over that everyone forgets who's doing what. And that can be a mess. And therefore nothing gets done because someone's doing it, but it's nobody. And I so get that. And that's where you go to your legal people straight away. Tell the owner, get your insurance onto this. And they'll say to you, oh, can you talk to the insurers? It's like, or mediation, yeah, I'll do that. My fee is X amount of dollars, stuff like that.
But it should be in the authority. So in the authority, all those additional fees must be included. And I'm finding a lot that haven't done that. And so therefore, even simple things like running company searches or checks when something goes haywire, or none of those things are recoupable. So you have this drip of your profit going out the back door without anybody being aware of it. So the other part was, when communication in property management is done really well, what does that actually look like? What do you see?
Oh, I find that there's less downtime, because things are really to the T.
They don't blow up.
Yeah, they don't. They don't go off on different tangents, because everyone's just pulled it all together how they should be pulling it together. So, I guess the timeline for everything. And that's the advantage for the owner, but it's also for yourself as a property manager, or else you're constantly trying to, put out fires everywhere. And for me, it's like, don't put out fires. You want to have everything set. Oh, definitely.
Takes too much energy.
Yeah. And so nip it in the bud before it gets to be like a fire.
Absolutely, a big one.
And I think that's where the experience comes from for individuals. It's like they know, they can see it coming, and this is how we're going to sort it out now before we get to that point.
I've heard before when you're more experienced, you're sort of looking at your team, and this came from my CEO who said, we could see the car driving towards the wall. We could see that property manager in their car going towards the wall, and we know how to stop it before it hits the wall because we know what happens when it hits the wall. It's going to be this big mess that they're not seeing, but we can see, and it's very hard to steer it. And that sort of comes from experience. And, sometimes it's very hard. You've got to let them hit the wall and then work it out afterwards and then debrief.
Yeah.
Maybe could have been done differently.
I mean, and I can think of those experiences too. There's lots of maybe hitting your right timelines for doing rent reviews and that type of thing where it's like this lease actually says you should have told them 6 months ago or a year ago with the market or whatever it is, whatever the lease states.
Yeah.
And unless you're getting them to read the leases properly, the property managers, then they're going to miss that key component, then everything goes crazy.
Yes. I just throw a few things in the property management's trust accounting system and then throw the lease somewhere in the SharePoint folder or in the hard file and then never again be looked at. It's a bit sad. So obviously that's an areas that I hone in a lot on training, and you will too, because we see these things happen. Like we know what happens and we've learned ourselves, probably sometimes the hard way. It's not like we've been doing this forever. And there's always something else to learn, which is exciting about the industry. So just on that note, capability in the future of the industry. So many people enter commercial property roles without structured training because there isn't a lot around. In fact, there's very little. What impact does that have on the industry, and what's your opinion on that?
It just gives poor quality. You as a property manager think really, but you actually don't. But you don't know what you don't know. So you need to be constantly training. And some agencies out there just don't do that. Oh, let's train our people up. What's new? Let's train them up. It's more like, look, let's just get the deals done. Let's keep things rolling. And in the meantime, everything's lagging behind, and now you're behind the 8 ball. You just can't make it happen. So it manifests itself.
You can see, it's an investment in your capital assets, which are your people. But some principals won't invest because they'll leave and then I've spent that money.
Exactly.
That thinking is just so...
That's right. Do I put my money into this person or not? Because they're going to get really good and they're going to see that we aren't that great. So we'll just move.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got so much more around it, that image as well, just seeing that, because, there's other things wrong with the agency as to why someone wouldn't stay there. If you can improve one capability across the property sector, what would it be?
I think mentoring, that people need to have that confidence instilled in them from people who've been there and done that. And I guess that's why I've gone down this path, because I can so much see that need. People, like I said before, people don't know what they don't know. But if they're following you and they go, oh, that's how it's done, then it's so much easier. I mean, and I just give so much kudos to my friend Karen Cruz, who was the one right at the very beginning, who helped me out and mentored me. Without her, I wouldn't have had the confidence to go further and then keep continuing learning. But mentoring is definitely it.
What advice would you give someone starting their career in commercial property today?
Oh, yeah, find yourself a good mentor and stick to the training. But you've got to have the passion. Now, you don't really know you've got the passion until you're actually in there, because I didn't realise I did till I was actually involved and go, wow, look at this world. It's amazing. And the rewards and the challenges and the humps and the highs and the lows. It's great that way. So I think they need to look at whether they've got a passion for it and then just move and keep going in the direction they want to go and let it go its own direction. Then you'll go down a path that's where you're meant to be, and you don't even realise that's where you're meant to be, like me. Receptionist to, senior property manager to owning my own business. So I just want to add to the AI, make use of AI in the best way that you can. Don't let it control you, you control it. But let it know what you're thinking, what you're wanting. But you've got to know what you're wanting. And then let it kind of map it out for you and go, yeah, well, I'll tweak that. And this is what I want to say. So AI is amazing, and keep up with that.
Yeah, use it as a tool So just on closing, after everything you've seen in the industry over the years, what still keeps you interested in commercial property?
Wow. I think it's the properties themselves.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I've had a neighbourhood centre and we got it and leases were terrible and rents were bad and tenant mix was crazy and, the whole thing, and it looked really bad. And to be able to move that around, turn it around, move it up and then sell it on, the owner sold it on. It's like, wow, the achievement of that, I think that's what's great. Putting the right components together, helping a tenant to feel good about their new place they're going to be living, and not living, but living, and the owner feeling good about it. It's just bringing those components together. And that's the satisfaction of it. So then when I go, like I said, I travel overseas and I look at other commercial properties and go, oh, that's nice. Oh, they could fix that up. I'm kind of now critiquing everybody. I shouldn't walk in shopping centres too much because that's really bad. Lots of trip and falls and stuff. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Don't get me started on the handrails that needed to be cleaned in the car park that wasn't done last night.
The amenities, yeah.
Lots of things.
And they want people to come back. Like, it's just like, it's such a key point that people may not go back. Yeah, they don't get it. If the industry could improve one thing over the next 5 years, what would you hope to see? I think I might know the answer to this.
Yeah, could improve. I just think better training. Across, and as I said, CPD, you've got to do it mandatory. So the quality of real estate agent is lifted, and that's what we're trying. We're trying to be as professional as we can. REIQ is always pushing that to be professional. And I think we can see in some agencies that aren't, but some agencies that are, and you go, well, thank you, because that's lovely to see. It's good for us.
It is. It's great to see that. And I just love it too, as you do. It's just anybody who wants to learn, who wants to train, you're more than happy to help them and work with them because it makes such a difference to the industry, and we're all passionate about the industry and seeing things. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Wendy.
This has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
So have I. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to In Conversations with Rauhena Chase. I hope today's discussion has given you some practical insights, a different perspective, or perhaps simply something to think about. If you'd like to learn more about the Australian Academy of Property, our training programs, resources and events, visit the aap.com.au. You can also connect with me, Wendy Thomson, on LinkedIn, where I share regular commentary, articles and observations from across the commercial property industry. Until next time, thank you for being part of the conversation.